Hey, in this video I want to show you how to create an average line chart with a range like this, showing the minimum and maximum values. If you open the file from the link in the video description, you can see a line chart which is showing the oil stock's average trading volume. We have the average line already inside. The average volume is simply an average function. And what we want is to add the maximum volume and the minimum volume also, and showing the distance between the minimum and the maximum as a range. With that, we could see whether the lower or the higher range has more impact, and we could also check some outliers. We have two visuals here, the area chart and the stacked area chart, which can kind of give us a grayed out area. I'm gonna copy this one for reference. And we are going to change this one. Let's change it to an area chart. And yeah, we have the shades, but the problem is that the colors are overlapping. So for example, we wanted to have the bottom part white. Let's change the lines, going to the colors, change the minimum volume to white. And you see that the blue colors are still behind, so this is not working. Then going to the stacked area chart. Now we can see only two values because the minimum is on the top. I put it on the bottom. And also change the color back temporarily. Let's change it back to gray. And now they are not overlapping, but the problem is that they stack. So they don't have the common baseline anymore. So this height here for the average, it's not just the height of the average, but it's the height of average plus the minimum value. The same goes for the maximum. This is the height of the minimum, the average, and the maximum value. If you look at the below chart, you can see that the distance is not that large. But if you look here, the distance is much larger. Someone just rang the doorbell. Package. So what we want is that the three values have the same baseline, but they don't stack. So kind of a combination of the two charts. And we can do that with measures, calculating these differences between the values. First, we need the bottom white space. Then we need the lower area than the average line and the higher range. I go back to the visual and delete all the measures. I already created every measure we need. We can start with the bottom white space, which is just the minimum volume. That's fine like this. And then we will have the lower range volume, which is simply the difference between the average and the minimum. And then we can add the higher range volume, which is the difference between the maximum and the average value. Let's add to it. And you can see that the scaling is working. We can change the colors, click on Format Visual, Lines. First, we are going to change the bottom white space. We don't need a stroke, 0 pixel. We can change it to white. Then going to the lower range volume, we can change the color to this mid-gray, and we can keep the stroke. Higher range volume, change the color also to gray. And in this case, we don't need a stroke, we can remove it. And there you have it already. Maybe we can make the line a bit thicker. Let's go back to the lower range volume, make the stroke width to 2. And yeah, this already works, but you cannot change the line color without changing the lower range color as well. I cannot separately change only the line color. It changes the area shade with it. So we can add an extra line to it. We could just add like a very thin line with the value of 1, average volume line. Let's add it to it and move it between the low and the high range. Starting to look good. We can remove the stroke from the lower range volume. And yeah, this looks good, but there is an issue that this date hierarchy goes until the end of the year, until December, but we have values only up to June. So these ones are going to cover up the dates up to the entire year, up to the end of the year. So instead of giving 1 as a value, we can take the average volume and just turn it into a very small number. And we can do it by dividing it by a very large number. If you go to this average volume line, you can see average volume divided by, I don't know, 100 million. And if you replace the measures, it removes the empty dates. I'm gonna delete the alt line chart, move it in the middle. And this is it basically, but we can still improve it. For example, getting rid of the legends because it doesn't really make sense for us here. And instead of that, we can write the values directly in the series labels. I'm going to activate it, and we only want to keep some of them. So bottom white space, we don't need that. Lower range volume neither. We can keep the average volume line and also change the color to orange. And we can also keep the higher range volume. But let's change the color to the same gray. And I'm also going to change the names. Average volume line is just going to be volume. Higher range is going to be range volume. And the scaling is still a bit off. It's because we have some large names here. So we can make it white space. And lower range, low. Now the scaling is better. And if you look at the tooltip, it's also not really working for us because it shows all the values which are not really valid values. But we can create a custom tooltip instead. I'm not going to do it on camera. So I just changed the background color. I added a card with the date and added 3 multi-row cards with max, average, and minimum volume. If I go back to the visual, and we can add the tooltip here, going to format visual, general, tooltips, report page, and add the tooltip to it. And as you can see now, it renders better. We could improve it even further by adding the price to it, and we could see the correlations between the trading volume and the stock prices. For that, I simply duplicated the page and the tooltip. I added another visual with the average price, put it behind the original line chart. I made the axis colors white and added a series label, dotted lines. And what was important, to give this average volume line called average volume. So they have the same size for the series label. Like the longest title is average volume. Then on the tooltip, I made it a bit larger and added the average price to it. And looking like this. So this is it. I wanted to share it with you because I thought it's cool. And if you liked it, you can give it a like, or you can also check the channel. There are similar videos there on design in Power BI. And see you next time.